Hey guys, what's up? So I got into RPGs when I was like 12 years old and I didn't have any problems whatsoever. But I am aware that it's not that easy for other people to get into the genre, just like it's not easy for me to get into other genres. So I came up with this question, like is it hard? Is it really that hard to get into RPGs? It may be for some people. And I invited my friend Oscar here to answer this question because he's like the perfect candidate for it. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thank you, Eric. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm eager to answer your questions. And like you said, I don't consider myself an RPG fan, but I do have some history about it. And I think that you are going to ask me about that, right?
Okay, Oscar, what was your first experience with an RPG?
Very good question. I was thinking about it, and it probably was when I was. It was when I was 8 years old. I was still playing on the NES, the original Nintendo, and there was a game that the seller, the reseller that actually sold me the game, was telling me that it was a chatting game, and it turned out to be Dragon Warrior, or the first Dragon Quest here in America. And I do remember it to be one of those games with good music, not really impressive graphically, but definitely dragged my attention the fact that it was heavily text dialogues based. So things like just open a door or going down the stairs required a command to be provided, in a menu text based system, right? So I was not used to that. I was used to standard games, action games, Mario Bros or Contra, and playing a game like this was something really different. It was an experience that I've never had before, and I didn't even knew these kind of games were a thing.
Did you play more RPGs after Dragon Warrior?
I did actually. I do remember playing some games. Like one of the ones that actually I remember very well was Earthbound. Earthbound on the Super NES, which is Mother 2, I think. It was also another similar kind of game that I also got it from a reseller. It was actually really cheap back then, but it was also sold to me like one of those chatting games. And yeah, and similarly, like the Dragon Warrior, it was strange to see also to be text-based. It actually felt a little bit more natural to me because it was, a modern age. They were kids. The characters were kids. I also played Super Mario RPG later on, and it was also great to me. But that's the RPG that I went further because back then Dragon Warrior I was not able to finish it, and I don't think I actually got even to the half of the game when I dropped it. And then Airbound I liked it as well, but I probably went beyond half of the game. But no, I still dropped it. The first one that I actually finished was Mario RPG, and I liked it a lot. But it was a very relatable character, right? And the story, it was funny. It was catching my eye, and definitely was something interesting. It still was not the action game I always played, but it was easy enough to get into. And later on, obviously, I had to play Chrono Cross. I played Final Fantasy VII, just like almost anyone, Final Fantasy X. But in reality, I never get into much RPGs, to be sincere with you.
Well, you seem to have played a lot of RPGs before you decided to move away from the genre. So what made you stay away from the genre?
Well, one of the things, like I said, is the lack of action, right? I'm an action man, I will say. I'm one of those I'm one of those gamers that really appreciate those. I mean, that really enjoys the action games. I mean, shoot 'em ups, run and guns, beat 'em ups, fighting games. That's the kind of games I liked a lot. And first of all, RPGs are a little more. You are not that really involved on every action of it because sometimes you have to just enjoy the story, right? Just read. Sometimes you just have to watch. One thing that I actually didn't like particularly, a couple of things I didn't like particularly from RPGs. One was the random encounters. you're not able to see your enemy and just get it randomly every few steps, on the overworlds. It was something that was killing me. And the second thing is the time spent on it. For me, the games back then should have last 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And while in the Super NES era and the PlayStation era, they were not that long as nowadays. I think that they were still, 20 hours long or 10 hours long, which is a lot longer than a regular action video game was, Yeah. And that's particularly the thing that was also killing me. The third thing could have been the social piece of it, because back then there were no online RPGs or MMOs. It was just basically yourself playing in front of the television by yourself, and there was no way. Most of the games, they had no cooperative mode, so I could not play with my buddies. We actually prefer to play racing games or fighting games just because we could play both of us together, or 3 or 4, So that's some of the reasons why even when I play some RPGs, I did not get into the genre back then.
So it sounds like you will prefer to play action RPGs, like more action-oriented RPGs. Is there a particular game that was easy for you to get into in the past few years or so that got you into the genre, or that you feel has gotten you more into the genre?
Definitely. I already talked about Mario RPG. While it is turn-based, it's still some action in it, because you have to, jump at the right moment, or attack at the right moment. But later on, other games like the Vanillaware games, like Odin Sphere in particular, which is more like an action RPG, and I found those more interesting. I think that those kind of games where it is actually you that are the one who's making the actions is actually much more interesting for people like me, which loves action. And another one is Xenoblade Chronicles. Xenoblade Chronicles, while it is, this is a particular, fight system, it is still some kind of action, because you still, even when you have the bar in the bottom to select your attacks and all the spells and all that stuff, you still need to move around your enemies, to either avoid the attacks from them, or to actually make more damage, so you feel more in control of the character than a turn-based RPG where you just select the action to do, you plan your strategy and just wait for it to, to what happened on the screen. It's a lot more passive, I think so. Another series that I love, because it's also an action RPG, if we can call it, is the Ys series. And to be sincere with you, I'm still playing Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Dana, and I've been loving that game because it's much more like a hack and slash with action RPG elements, or some people will say it's actually an action RPG with hack and slash elements. But depending on the point of view you actually see it, but it still is a lot of more action than the regular RPG.
So, will you recommend the Ys series or the Vanillaware games like Dragon's Crown for beginners into the genre?
Absolutely. I think that those are games, especially or particularly Ys 8, I think is a really good entry on the series, especially for the people that is not used to RPGs, or that is, has not given the chance to a real RPG, because again, the battle system is actually pretty straightforward. It's really easy to understand. It's really a hack and slash in that regards. But it's also heavy in some RPG elements, like the items, the things that you actually wear to improve your stats, and the same thing happens with Odin Sphere or Dragon's Crown, where they are action RPGs. They are really easy to enter. Particularly Vanillaware is also very attractive visually. Graphically, they are impressive, and it is entertaining. It's action, but it's also heavy on those RPG elements that we love. I think those are some of the perfect games for a newcomer, a beginner, to start with RPGs.
All right, thank you very much for answering these questions and for being here in my video with me. Thank you very much, man.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure, and greetings to everyone.
So that's it for this video, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. Now it's time for you to answer that question yourselves. I'm interested in knowing if it was hard for you to get into the genre, and what games would you recommend for a beginner, that has a hard time to get into this genre. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!